Study guilt is a pretty common occurrence in medical students. So, what is study guilt? It's a feeling of guilt or anxiety that some students experience when they're not studying enough or they feel that they're not doing enough in regards to their schoolwork. It often arises from the pressure to succeed academically, perhaps a competitive environment where there are limited numbers of spots or jobs in the field, like in medicine. It can arise from personal expectations, like if you have high expectations of yourself, and it can also arise from peer comparison, seeing maybe that your friends are always studying. It can also arise from imposter syndrome or culture or even family pressure. So a lot of things can lead to study guilt. The guilt can lead to stress and decreased productivity and ends up creating a counterproductive cycle. So I've had a lot of experience with study guilt throughout my time in medical school. I experienced it the most during first year and second year, but I also struggled with it a little bit during third year. But I found that things sort of kind of got better throughout medical school. But I think for me, some of my issues during first year and second year were that I was setting unrealistically high expectations for myself each day with regards to how much material I would get through. And when I did take a break, I would be thinking about all the work that I needed to be doing and feeling guilty if I wasn't doing enough practice questions or XYZ. So I was actually burned out and efficient if I did study, but I felt too guilty not to study, and I didn't really enjoy my time outside of working. So over the years, I've gotten a little bit better at handling this, and I wanted to share some of the things that have helped me with study guilt. So the first thing that I've done with this is changing my mindset. So I started viewing relaxation and time off from studying as essential to productivity and essential to succeeding in academics. I viewed it as, an investment in my study time. And I learned that through taking regular breaks, I would actually be more efficient and feel less burned out, and I would enjoy studying more. I also found that when I took more time off from my schoolwork, if I put some of that extra time into my relationships, it put me in a better headspace when I did study. I wasn't feeling quite as guilty for being a bad friend or a bad daughter or whatever because I was so unavailable because all I was ever doing was studying. I guess the more recent time that I felt a lot of study guilt was when I was studying for Step 2. It was during that dedicated time. I was towards the beginning of dedicated, and I was feeling really burned out from my entire third year of medical school. So I took a few days off at the beginning of dedicated in order to just kind of refresh. But I found myself feeling really guilty because I knew I had such limited time to actually study for Step 2 before taking the exam. So I found myself just really feeling uncomfortable with that experience, and it was difficult to actually, get out of that headspace. But I tried to view it as necessary to doing better and taking that time off as important in the rest of my dedicated period. And I do think that it helped a little bit, at least initially, to take that time off. But I think that, keeping your mindset on that it's important has personally helped me a lot. I also found it important to set realistic study goals and schedules. So during my first year and second year especially, I found myself kind of making these unrealistic goals for each day that, it would be really hard to actually achieve. And when I didn't manage to achieve those, I felt guilty and I felt like I actually didn't achieve anything for the day, and I just didn't feel good. But I noticed when I lowered my expectations a little bit, I would end up feeling better at the end of the day and feeling a little bit more accomplished. And that I think is important, just to kind of have those small wins in your mind. And it helps when you kind of have that box checked to where when you do have time off in the evening or whatever, you can actually enjoy that time because you checked all of your boxes and you got them all done. So yeah, it's a little bit better in my experience of setting realistic goals. I also found it important to sort of reflect on my achievements. So maybe I achieved all of my goals that I set for the day, and really kind of taking that in and being like, wow, you actually did a lot today. And even though it doesn't feel like it because you still have things that are a little bit incomplete, you actually did a lot and you learned a lot, and you learned a lot of different things that you didn't know before, and now you know these things, and that's pretty cool. So reflecting on the achievements was actually pretty helpful for me. So that's kind of my experience with changing my mindset in terms of study guilt. I saw that when I changed my mindset, it helped me with the kind of emotionally and physically draining aspects of the study guilt, and helped me feel a little bit less burned out in general. But there's also this other side of study guilt that's, I think I felt it a lot in medical school, but it's this feeling of being guilty for studying too much because your relationships miss out and you're having to make a lot of different sacrifices, and you feel guilty about that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I noticed this especially during my first and second years of medical school. It was during COVID, and my husband was working from home. So outside of home, we didn't really have a lot of things that we could be doing. And I noticed I started feeling pretty guilty about not being able to spend time with him, and that potentially impacting our relationship, and, not being able to maybe reach out to my family as frequently as usual. And that would make studying more difficult for me because I was thinking about how I was maybe failing in these areas or how I could be doing better. But I think one thing that helped me get through this time was recognizing that it's a very temporary experience. So my family might be missing out on time with me, and I might be missing out on time with my family right now, which sucks, but it's temporary, and eventually I'd like to be able to spend a lot more time with them. And I think that helped a little bit. And also just recognizing that even if your family doesn't really understand how difficult medical school is or how much time it takes up, especially in those first few years, I think it is important to just kind of remind yourself that, they understand. Even if they don't truly understand, they've heard that medical school is hard, and they get it, and they get that you're not going to be around quite as often. And that helped me a little bit, just knowing that they understand, like they'll be here, and I just have to get through this time. And then when I do have time, I'll spend more time with them. And that sort of helped me a little bit. I guess all in all, I just wanted to sort of encourage the importance of being kind to yourself and understanding your limits, setting realistic goals so you can actually be proud of yourself from time to time, and the importance of taking time off and how important that is in terms of actually studying and doing well and succeeding. If you just push and push and push, it's actually going to be harder, and it'll make studying less enjoyable. But if you sort of take breaks and allow yourself to just, disconnect a little bit and feel like you deserve the time, and feel like that time is important too. Like taking time off is important in your academics as well. I just think that's an important thing in doing well in medical school. So, and in combating study guilt. So yeah, I do encourage you to do whatever works best for you in terms of, mindset or goals. Do what works best for you, and in your free time, do what makes you feel good. And I hope that some of this was helpful. I guess just a quick reminder is this part of your journey is very temporary, and I'm certainly not all the way there. I'm in my 4th year of medical school, and I'm getting close, but things have gotten a lot better during 4th year and a lot of the times during 3rd year as well. So things were really rough the first couple of years of med school, but gradually things are getting better. So just a reminder that this is temporary, and things will get better. Even if it's not right away, things will get better eventually. So hang in there. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this is helpful for your study guilt feelings, and best of luck with the rest of your schooling. All right, we'll see you in the next episode.